Hackensack University in New Jersey, and she was the inaugural sports neurotrauma fellow at the University of Florida under the tutelage of renowned concussion and brain experts. So she's currently in a major academic center in New York as a clinical assistant professor in neurology department as a director of concussion and neurocognition. Dr. Datta currently serves as the vice chair of the sports neurology section at the American Academy of Neurology. She has years of experience guiding medical students, residents, future fellows, hopefully through the match process. So that's her. Nicole Taylor works with Dr. Datta. She would introduce Nicole Taylor to you. And here you go. And Dr. Datta, the students here are primarily medical students or just finished medical school, and they're looking towards residencies, guidances. They're hopefully going for match next year. So they want to get prepared, and as an organization, All Kerala Medical Graduates Association is a United States organization, which is alumni organization of all the medical graduates from in Kerala. And I'm the chair of the mentorship committee. So we have all these people coming into this committee trying to get help, and so I'm organizing this for them. And we have about 15 people, but of which I'm expecting only 6 to 7 people joining this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I wholeheartedly support what you're doing, because in medicine, it's all about giving back once you have crossed the bridge, right, to the other side. And it's so nice of you to take the time to hold their hand. And it's very similar to what we're doing here, except we do it in sort of like, chunks, and we'll explain our process a little bit more. But today, really, I want to guide you a little bit, sort of like a primer on how to create a marketable CV and personal statement. And obviously, these are services that we offer if you choose. But I would please request the people, or maybe if you don't want to put it in the chat, Dr. Deepu can, whoever attends today, give us the contact information, emails of the students, so we can give them a special discount for attending and waking up so early in the morning, or sleeping late at night in India. So this is very nice of you. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, we can see.
Yes, right, perfect. I will let Ms. Taylor introduce herself. Ms. Taylor, can you let in the people waiting in the lobby?
Sure thing.
Thank you so much. I'll let her introduce herself. She will do the second part of the presentation, because she's sort of a CV guru as well. And I will do the personal statement section. So go ahead, Ms. Taylor.
All right. First of all, it's a joy to talk to you guys this morning. So I have been working with Dr. Datta for a little bit over a year now, and my background has been in the corporate world. I have worked with senior level executives, from CEOs to their direct reports, the executive leadership team, as they're going through transitions. And the transitions that they're going through are either transitioning within their companies or transitioning outside of their companies. So a lot of the work that I did with these executives were in marketing them for new jobs, or if they were looking to start their own business. The company that I worked with helped provide a basis for them to do that. So I have worked on hundreds of resumes during my 20+ year career doing that type of work. And I've also done a lot of interview training as well. So when Dr. Datta told me about this business that she was starting, I just had to hop on board, because this really plays into a lot of the work I've done on the executive side, and it's very translatable to working with students like yourselves who are about to embark in applying for residency. So I'm thrilled to talk to you a little bit more during this presentation about how to create a marketable CV.
All right, let's jump right into it. So as we know, ERAS opens at the end of September. We need a good personal statement as well as a medical CV. And the medical CV is very different than you just going online and finding a format. It's a lot more involved, okay? And the personal statement is sort of like the face of your application as well as the CV. Why? Because it's a whole application that is meant to represent you, right? Without you being there in person. Once the personal statement is seen and the CV is seen, and person's like, you know what? Program directors, like, I really want to meet this person. This shows that this person's mature. They really have a interest in medicine, and they've shown the dedication to the field. Okay. So what does the personal statement do? It highlights parts of who you are that's not on the CV. Okay. It contextualizes your accomplishments and it allows you to make a case for yourself, right? I think there's someone in the lobby. So how do we get started, right? Because like most students, and including myself, when I had to write a personal statement, at this point, I've written so many for myself and other students, but still there's like a moment where you're staring at the wall, you're staring at the window, and you wonder what it is, how do I get started, right? So basically, brainstorming means you call it just putting down ideas on the paper, okay? You write an outline and you just do free writing. So do not put pressure on yourself in order to get started. You just put down some type of outline or just bullet points or ideas to get started, okay? All right, I don't know if this annotation is going to throw off my control, so I may have to close it. All right. So basically, what is the basic outline of a personal statement? Limited to 850 words. Usually, you know, concise, right? Use the word count, be clear and concise. They don't follow a format per se, but they need to address the specialty you want to pursue and why. Experiences that make you the best candidate. Obviously, you need to have a clear understanding of what this specialty entails and the necessary skills. What are your accomplishments that make you a good person in terms of wanting to pursue this specialty, right? And what are your shortcomings, right? Because you just cannot be so boastful that you are above everything and you don't have anything that you need to improve, right? And as well as your future goals. Because in general, we want to be humble in medicine, right? Because we're constantly learning. There's no such thing as someone even as experienced as Dr. Banu is always learning, as well as me. I'm a junior attending, but every day I learn at least 10 new things, you know? So you have to be humble. All right, so consider the experiences that's going to make you stand out, right? And sometimes you're not very good at that. This is why we get involved. A lot of times I've seen personal statements that someone has agonized over. I look at this, I'm like, you know, comparison to your CV and your accomplishments, they don't really highlight all the things on your background very well. So what we do is we look at your CV, we compile it, we help you, and then we pull from that what to highlight in your personal statement, if that makes sense. They're both two parts of the same coin, okay? They need to be intermarried and flow together well, right? So let's say you have a really, really basic CV. You know, a lot of people use first person in their CV. That's not accurate. So I'll give you an example. There's a very active member. There's a Facebook group called USA Residency Never Give Up. She was the admin. She's a Colombian medical graduate who tried for medical residency in pediatrics 4 times. Okay. And, you know, CV was not bad. I mean, her English speaking skills were a little bit questionable, but finally, when she came to me, I looked at her CV, I looked at her documents, and I just shook my head. I said, you know, this is one of the problems on your application, because her CV was disorganized. It was like she was speaking in the first person, wrong grammar, context, irrelevant things written in the CV, poor grammar choices. So we cleaned all that up. And I spent a lot of time with her, you know, verbal skills and delivery of her interview skills, and she ended up matching last year, and we're very, very proud. Okay, so it does make a difference in having a well put together document. So what do we need to do initially? We need to establish a tone, right? An introduction, the questions we will consider. What drew you to medicine? Don't say, I just want to help people. That's just so blasé and boring, okay? So Ms. Taylor knows I just cut out everything that's like everybody else says and we start all over. Sometimes it's like the whole document, we have to throw it out. Was there a particular experience, professional or personal, that happened? What makes the experience stand out? What drew you to this specialty? What qualities do you possess and what experiences do you have that will make you well suited for this specialty, okay? You can begin with the anecdote, but be careful, right? Everybody uses some quote by Mother Teresa or MLK or somebody else. That's played out. Everyone's done that, all right? So try not to start like that because everyone does it. By the end of the paragraph, it should be clear why what you started with is now at the end, okay? So tying the whole the document together is very relevant. So I'm going to give you an example. This is actually a real personal statement from someone in our program that actually matched into the top pediatrics program in the country, Washington Children's, okay? So we're very proud of her. So this is one excerpt from there. Many years ago, my parents made the selfless decision to leave blank because we don't want to identify who it is for the United States. They wanted to provide their children with a better education and most importantly, the chance to live without fear of car bombings, kidnappings, and assault. So you can imagine this will grab somebody's attention, right? Because this person's lived through a lot of hardship in their own country. When I arrived, I had many opportunities to experience diverse cultures. In middle school, my mother enrolled me in a Greek school where every day was like a trip to Greece. I find myself dancing panzali in the streets of Athens and sitting down for coffee in the Thessaloniki. When I was given the chance to teach English to children at a summer camp in Greece, I fell in love with the children's colorful imagination. So obviously, now this leads into why she's interested in pediatrics. Okay, do you see that? It's a lead-in to why. Okay, great, you had a tough life in your country. What does that mean? And why do we care? So now we're tying it into why she likes pediatrics and where did it start? How did you get interested in pediatrics? So it started at a summer camp, right, in Greece. I fell in love with the children's colorful imagination. This was the pivotal moment that I knew the rest of my future work would involve children. After these experiences, I wanted to pursue pediatrics. All right, so this will grab somebody's attention, as you can see. We'll take questions at the end. Don't worry, we'll be here until we answer all your questions, okay? So the body, what do we do in the body of a personal statement? We build a narrative. They should connect to your introduction, as I said. Make a connection between your experiences, personal and professional, and the qualities that make you a good position in this specialty. And if you say something, right? And this is another thing that we don't like at Residency Success. I'm a team player. I'm a hard worker. I'm this, I'm that. I don't like it because so what? Give me an example. I would rather have you give me examples than just highlight random things that don't make any sense, okay? If it should be clear why you highlight these experiences. If the experience you discuss doesn't clearly connect to the overall statement, consider using a different experience, okay? So should be an explicit connection. So another example is there was another candidate from India who matched, and she was from a very small school in Punjab. It wasn't like a top-rated university or anything. And her personal statement, she had put that she tended to be very competitive in her medical school and didn't have many friends. Do you think that's a really good thing to put in a personal statement?
I would say no.
I want to hear from the students. Why do you think that's not something that we would want to put in a personal statement or highlight?
Because it implies you don't work well with others.
Right. It also kind of makes you look very inflexible, right? And that fact, you basically said, I'm not a team player. I just like trample over others to go to my goal, right? That was one of the personal statements I completely X'd out. I was like, come back when this looks better. All right. So be prepared to address anything that could be perceived as a red flag. Do you have low test scores? Now I leave it up to the candidate whether or not they want to really discuss this. But in my opinion, if you discuss it and you support it well, you get it out of the way. Sometimes they don't even ask it to you in the interview once you talk about it in your personal statement, okay? Are there large gaps on your CV? Did you change career paths? Dedicate a short paragraph to addressing why your test scores might be low. What were you doing during the gaps and why did you shift paths? Okay, as long as you explain it well, what did you learn from it? Look, we're all human. We're not perfect machines. And because of the fact that you're foreign medical grads, you have like a longer path, right? And I've been there. I'm a Caribbean graduate and I had a very, very long path in this journey as well. Now, the final paragraph, you should briefly summarize who you are, why you want to pursue this specialty. Ensure that the phrasing is unique. Avoid cliches. Don't say it's clear from my letter that I'm an excellent candidate. Don't assume, okay? Tell them why. Consider coming full circle and drawing on a trope from your introduction, okay? So that is actually very good practice. Before we go into the medical CV, are there any questions currently? All right, great. I will pass the baton to Ms. Taylor.
Okay. Well, hello. It's Dr. Datta. Can I change the slides, or do I need you to do that?
I will do that unless you want to,
Okay.
but that'll will delay.
No, actually, you can take control. That's fine. Okay, so what is the medical CV? What's the purpose of it? So Dr. Datta, I think, highlighted the reasons why the medical CV is important, but the purpose of it is to showcase your history, right? The things that you have done and your experience, everything that has brought you to the point of coming to apply for residency. So it's a comprehensive, I would say, story of everything that you've accomplished at this point. So it serves two purposes. You want to be able to distinguish yourself from other candidates, right? So you want to highlight the things that you've learned, the different externships that you've done, the different observerships. Some of you may not have done that yet. There may be experiences that you've had related to medicine that you've done through either research or volunteer work. Those are the things that are applicable. Those are the things that you need to have on that medical CV. And it's something that you're going to keep with you throughout your whole career. So this is going to be a running document. You're going to update it. You may take things out. You're definitely going to add things in, especially as you start to build your experience over time. Next slide. So there are various elements to creating the CV. And here on this particular slide, it outlines to you what you need to include, especially when you're applying for match, right? So of course, you want to make sure that you have your contact information on top. If you do have a complete LinkedIn profile, and when I say a complete LinkedIn profile, not just, you know, a profile that has nothing, you know, maybe a couple of lines of, you know, of information. If you do have a LinkedIn profile that's complete, I always recommend to include it. But if you don't worry about putting it in there. You want to include your education. We always put the education on top. You want to, you know, have what, you know, the where you went to medical school, the location, the years that you graduated, your internship. You know, again, as you start developing this document over time, you're going to have, you know, you can put your post, you know, your fellowship information on there. But it's clear that you want to have this at the top of your CV. Now, in some cases, depending on if you're applying, it's usually for corporate work. The education usually comes at the bottom of the CV. But for this type of CV that you're applying for match, education always comes on top. You want to put your USMLE scores, right? All your clinical rotations, any practical work experience. And when I say practical work experience, this is experience that you've actually got paid for. So if there's any particular jobs, again, related to your pursuit of medicine, you want to add it there. Your research experience, if you had research, Very important to include, especially if research is something that you want to pursue down the road, right? So you want to be clear about who you worked with. It's always important to name drop in CVs because you never know who if somebody's reading your CV, you never know what that person may know that person, which gives you a little bit of an edge. And also, if you've had a good relationship working with that individual, they're going to do some background checking. So you want to make sure that you are clear about the people that you've worked with in your CV. And then, of course, you want to put down if you've had any publications, always in an MLA format. So, always have that handbook with you. So you know how to actually format in that way. Again, any languages that you have. Obviously, a lot of you are coming from a foreign background, so it's important to showcase the different types of languages that are in your experience, especially how fluent you are in English and in other languages. Any certifications also you want to add, and also too, references. Now, some people have a tendency, and I've seen different people do this, they'll list all their references as part of the CV. It's not necessary. I always like to tell people, you want to have a reference list of people that you've worked with. You want to make sure that anybody that you list as references are people that you've actually talked to and told them, you know what, I'm applying for different things. I'm going to list you as a reference. Make sure to check your references and make sure that the people that you choose on your reference list are going to give you a good reference, because you don't want somebody to speak to you and speak for you, right, and speak about you who can't really give you a positive feedback on the experience that they've had with you. Next slide. All right. So the big no's in medical CVs, right? And I've seen this happen time and time again. Again, list of references. Again, that's a document that you have as a separate document, right? Compensation history, not necessary, unless you're applying for a job where they actually specify you to add that. But on a medical CV, you don't need to add that. Photos, I've seen people put various photos, and I think, more it's a style thing that people see other people doing. It's not necessary. One thing I tell people is that sometimes people can judge you based on your photo, and you want to have the resume speak for itself. So I say no photos on medical CVs. The reasons that you left your previous positions, not necessary to include. That may come out in an interview situation if that's something that's asked, but on a CV, not necessary. If you have any disabilities, not necessary to include. Again, you don't want somebody to have a judgment call on you before they actually have a chance to meet you, right? Your citizenship, marital status, again, not necessary. Some of these questions, again, could come out in an interview, but some of these questions in terms of how HR people talk to potential candidates are questions that they can't ask. So it's information that it's not necessary to include. Also, what you like to do for fun. I see people, again, it's a common thing that people do. They'll put, what their personal interests are. Again, it's not necessary for a medical CV. A medical CV is to only showcase your experience and your background as it relates to the medical field. Anything outside of that is not necessary. Next slide. Okay, so this is an example of a CV that we have done for clients. One thing to notice is that it's laid out in a way that it's easy and readable. You don't want to clutter a lot of information on one page. You want to make sure that there's enough white space. And you want to make sure, again, that it's easily readable. Most people will only take about 10 to 15 seconds to read a CV, right? And if they can't scan through it and look and be able to look at certain information quickly, it's going to go in the trash. So you want to make sure that it is spaced accordingly. You're using the same font throughout. Don't be too stylistic with it. Next slide, Shae. And getting granular on CVs. So when I say get granular on CVs, I'm talking about you want to add details, right? You don't want to make a blanket, statement about certain things. You want to include details that are going to be important for the person to know. So like I said, one of the reasons why we create the medical CV specifically for our candidates is that, again, it's a document that you're going to use throughout your career, but it's also the document that you're going to use as the basis of your ERIS application, right? So the details that the ERIS application is going to ask you are the same details that you need to include on your CV. So for clinical rotations, again, name dropping. You want to include your preceptor, the hours that you work during the week. For your work experience, again, name drop. Who's your supervisor? Again, these are people in the medical community. As big as the medical community is, there's a lot of people who know each other. So again, you want to include that information on the CV. For the research, again, who did you work under? These are people, especially if they've done a lot of publishing, they're going to be fairly easy to find, right? When you do Google them or whatnot. So it's important to include that information to see, the backgrounds of the people that you've worked under, right? For everything, you want to include the dates. We do this in reverse chronological order, right? I've seen people when they've done CVs where they do it in chronological order. Why is that wrong? Because we want to showcase what your most recent experience is, and that showcases growth, right? So you want to start from what your most current work has been and then go backwards. So not everybody is going to recognize, the different places that you've worked. So you want to add a little bit more detail. Like, for example, if you worked for a small, community hospital, and in a small city, in your home country, I want to know what specifically what did that community hospital cater to? Who was their focus? Was it, purely just, was it an outpatient facility? Was it an inpatient? Was it both? These are the details that will showcase the breadth of experience and environments that you have worked in. So it's important to include those little details as you're putting together your CV. And most importantly, don't frustrate your reader, right? So you want to be very concise as you put in information. You don't want to, as I, sometimes see, have verbal diarrhea when you write out information, right? It's got to be easy for whoever is looking at that CV. It's got to be easy for them to read. Next slide. Okay, so medical CV versus the resume. And sometimes, admittedly, I use CV and resume interchangeably, but they are very different documents, right? Again, the medical CV is going to be a much longer document, right? It's going to showcase a lot of information about you. And when you're applying for academic roles or you're applying for any roles within hospitals, they need to have all that information, right? A resume, in contrast, can be 1 page, it can be 2 to 3 pages. But it's something that you would use more so if you are going into like a work environment, right? If you're like, for example, if you're doing a consulting role with a major company, you don't want to inundate them with a 9 to 10 page medical CV. You want to cut it down and have it be more focused on that type of role that you're applying for, right? The medical CV, again, is more of an academic document that you're going to use when you're applying for, jobs within within the medical community, okay? Again, education is usually listed first in a medical CV as opposed to being listed last in a regular resume. Resumes typically have a little bit of a short narrative profile on top that showcases, for example, like my background would be, seasoned operational professional who has worked in multiple industries with executives and medical students in pursuit of their, job search goals. So that would be a narrative profile. For a medical CV, it's unnecessary to include, okay? Again, for CVs, you want to name drop. Resumes, you don't. Usually with the resume, you're going to have the company names and you're going to have information about the company, but it's not necessary to name drop or to add the information of people that you've worked under. Resumes again are typical for the non-academic world. So, a lot of the resumes that I did over time were with executives who are looking for corporate types of jobs. So their resumes were a lot shorter, a lot different. The medical CV, again, is if you're pursuing academic related positions or as you're, pursuing, positions within the hospital setting, okay? Again, resumes only highlight certain areas of your work history, so it's not going to be as comprehensive as your medical CV. Again, you're going to use a resume when you're applying for very specific types of roles. Medical CV, again, is going to have a bunch of information, and it's going to be relevant depending on where you're applying for residency or where you're applying, for fellowship or, any type of hospital-related position. It's going to be important to keep that medical CV up to date. All right. Next slide.
I just wanted to add, I just want to add something in before we move on.
Sure.
So we're saying all of this, but the thing that we do is we don't just make a CV in order for you to populate it in ERAS. We do that. We make it very easy. We construct it so that all you have to do is copy and paste into ERAS once the season opens, number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, this is a separate document you have in addition to the ERAS CV, which highlights the best of you so that you can send it out to PDs or apply to jobs or research programs. So what happens is you get like a 2-for-1, right? You don't just get assistance with this ERAS CV, you also have this amazing, very polished document that you can then use to build for the rest of your career. Okay, so it's actually a dual benefit. All right, I'm going to the next slide.
All right. So again, talking about the medical CV, it is an essential part of your career, right? And I think one of the things that having worked with Dr. Datta and the candidates over the past year and a half that I found is that, once that CV is polished and it showcases and highlights the best parts of you, right? It makes a big difference in terms of the candidate verbalizing what their experience is, because now that they've laid it out, they can actually see the progression and the things that they've done in their career that they can highlight right in the interview, or also too, in the personal statement. I've had conversations with different people. And it's amazing to me when you talk to people and they forget, oh my gosh, I actually did do this. So, the process that we have with our candidates is, it's a lot about talking to them, figuring out the things in their background that they hadn't even thought about would be relevant to adding to the CV. But sometimes people forget things, right? And I think what we're adept at is pulling out that information from you so that it showcases your best qualities. And, again, this is a document that you're going to use throughout your whole career. And we actually do a great job of setting up that foundation. So this is something that you can use for years to come.
All right, so that pretty much concludes our CV and personal statement portion. I just wanted to introduce a little bit about the things that we have built to help you. We have very structured plans in order to assist you on this journey. If you guys are early, like taking step 1 now, you're our favorite person, because we will help you not fall into the pitfalls and make the mistakes that other people do. People are like, oh, I'll take step 3 and then contact them. Or someone comes to me, I just finished step 3 and I failed step 2 twice, and now I need your help in burying my red flags. Like, well, okay, I can help you, but I would have rather, when we spoke last year, that you had signed up with us, and we just kind of customize the plans to what your needs are in order for us to help you. We do have USMLE tutors that work with you one-on-one as well. They're very affordable. And we have 2 structured plans that include these type of things. So there's a basic mentorship plan. Basically, it has everything that the Platinum plan has, which has more hand-holding. I'll get into that in a second. This 2-hour match application review and strategy session is 2 separate hours with a physician mentor that looks over your entire application and makes you have a 6-month outline or a plan of how you will approach the match season. Is it too late? No, it's never too late. It is actually just the perfect time right now if you're applying for match next year, or if you have all your documents and everything's ready, you just want someone to look it over and then anticipate interviews, because this only includes 1-hour boot camp session. So we have group interview sessions, which is limited to 4 students and 1 teacher, or we have one-on-one for 1 hour with one of our interview experts, okay? So this is the basic plan. Let me talk about the Platinum plan, okay? This plan actually is the most comprehensive. Like, if you're someone, I asked one of my students, I was like, you had good grades. You most likely would have matched even if I really didn't help you by just taking CV, personal statement, instead of signing up for Platinum plan. Why did you do that? And she said, you know what, Dr. Datta, I wanted to go all in. I did not want to take the chance that I would apply. And yes, I knew I had good scores and this and that I would fall on my face. Because every year, guys, there are even American medical students that come to us that didn't match. So it's not limited to an IMG thing, okay? Most of the time, there's a couple of different reasons. You aim too high. You apply to programs that don't meet your criteria, A. B, something was wrong with your application. C, you got all the way to the interview process, but you messed up the interview. You did not know how to connect with the interviewer. You didn't sell yourself well, or it was a combination of all 3, okay? So this one really holds your hand, where it does all your document editing, as well as gives you one-on-one interview sessions per month, 2 30-minute for 6 months. So it starts in September, ends in like January, February. And every month, your primary physician mentor checks in with you over email. And you also get group interview sessions. A lot of people kind of balk at that a little bit, right? They're like, oh, I don't really want to do a group interview session. I'd rather do one-on-one. Let me tell you why that is good for you, okay? So I had one candidate who was a very good candidate. She matched, but she didn't want to do any group sessions. I said, Sanjana, why don't you just do 1 group session? It'll be on me, okay? Why don't you just try it out? Why? Because I wanted to throw her into seeing what her competition looked like, okay? All of these other students, they had been working with me for a while, and they were excellent. Okay, at the end of the group interview session, she messaged me. She's like, "Fuck that, I'm really scared." Well, I told you need more sessions. Okay, I'm not trying to. For me, honestly, I don't have time. Miss Taylor knows this. I'm like, just really have my hands in 100 things. So for me, this is for you. I've already crossed the bridge to the other side. Dr. Banu's already crossed the bridge to the other side. We're trying to help you identify your areas of weakness and kind of get you to the other side so you can then lead the hand and help others later. Okay, so I don't upsell, and I honestly don't really have time to do that. Am I 100% right always? No, but we try to act in the best interest of what's going to be good for you and your application. Okay, so this one also includes, which is really, really excellent. Every month we have 2 or 3 sessions just like this on Saturdays most of the time, sometimes weekdays, on different topics in the match season. The last week was interview etiquette. next week is going to be how to fill out your ERAS application. Okay. Previously, how to write a good CV, how to write a good personal statement. The first one that we launched was we also teach you how to make your social media like LinkedIn and Twitter to cater to your medical career as well as connect and network with people. Okay. We give you a lot. We give you, but the thing is, what we expect you to do is do the work. Okay. We're going to give you the tools, but you need to still work hard. It's not like going to be that you're not going to still do any work. Okay. Is there any questions at this moment? This is a QR code for the WhatsApp for our client relations specialist. You can scan it, get in touch with her if you have any more questions. You can also email me directly at residencysuccess2000@gmail.com. Okay. But I will also request, all of your contact information so we can send you out a special discount for attending today. I would love to take questions, and you guys can take pictures of this. You can follow us on Instagram as well as Facebook. We have a Facebook group where most of our videos and a lot of like new things that we do are launched first. So you would likely it would be good to join if you just go to MD to attending or just Google Residency Success. There's a page. You can follow the page and then enter the group as well. Any questions?
I had a few questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So, I mean, coming to the CV, if we have pending research, do we include that in the CV as well, or do we just include things that are published?
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I always want you to, so let's say we are working on your CV now, Teresa, okay? And let's say the date of publication will be December. All right, so you will put, or you don't know when, right? But you, as a placeholder, I always want you to put it in, and you can put submitted, status submitted, anticipated, whatever. But yes, you're working hard on that, right? So at least it fills in the gap, because some people are like, what is Teresa doing from this time to that time? I have no clue what she's doing. But that actually answers your question.
Yeah, and so should it go in a separate like category, or should it just be as we list the rest of the research?
No, it should be just with the research.
Just with everything else.
It's with the research. Yeah, under the research, heading.
Okay, and then my other question was, say if we do have gaps in our CV, like there's nothing we can do at that point, right? It would just open it up in the personal statement and in the interview to discuss that, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then the other question I had was, when you're talking about your plans that you offer, is it on a rolling basis, or is it like, fixed schedules that like you'd have to sign up now and, be on the same plan as everybody else?
Here's the thing with let's go back to this for 1 second. Both of them are on a rolling basis, but
Okay.
what we do is we are limiting our slots because, I'm very picky about the people that come on and join us. Just because somebody's interested and wants to work with us, they don't make the cut. So, so we do it on a rolling basis, and you haven't missed much because these platinum mentorship plans are classes that have been ongoing. They're all in a shared folder, and you can just watch them on your own time because they're all recorded. And then basically, time is of the essence, right? We're already like almost at the end of July. We're almost in August right now. So August, September, your stuff goes in. It would behoove you to take action as soon as possible. And the benefit of something like the Platinum Plan is you don't have to worry, you're covered for the interview. Because later on, if you just calculate everything, it ends up being cheaper to be as part of the plans as opposed to for you to buy the separate interview package, buy the separate CV, personal statement, this, that, So if you're interested, I would just email me, or, we can talk offline as well, and then we can discuss further. Okay?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Thank you so much. This was really helpful.
I'm really happy to hear that. Okay. Any other questions or concerns?
Yeah, I have a question
Sure.
regarding the personal statement and the CV. So about the personal statement, assuming that it's being sent to all the programs, like the similar personal statement sent to all the programs, how do we phrase the last paragraph or our interest? Do we cater it to saying that we are more interested in research? And if we do that, are we missing out on programs that do not focus much on research? How do we, or research or clinical side, how do we phrase that or make it equal to all the programs? If I,
Ms. Taylor, you want to take that one? Anyway, let me give you my input and then I'll let her comment.
Mhm.
So basically, you have to really make sure that so obviously research is done most of the time in university programs. University programs have score cutoffs that are much higher than community programs, okay?
Mhm.
So if your goal is to do research and your background can support it and you do have publications and your academic acumen is up to par, certainly put the research. And then just change the second paragraph and assign those personal statements to the community. Don't put your research forward closing statement because the community's gonna be like, well, she's not gonna fit in. They do research, but it's on a smaller level. It's like, research day or posters. They don't have the, wherewithal to support you to get you to like an academic research type resident. It's just you're going to put yourself at a disadvantage. So what we do is we just, keep the same PS, but then we change it around the last one and have a separate one to assign to the community program.
Yeah, we've worked with candidates who have requested, multiple personal statements based on the different programs that they're interested in. So it's possible to do that, but you have to be very selective on how you use that.
Okay, and this would work for both if I had to focus more on clinical as well. So the university programs would be focusing more on research, so I would have to put something based on that, and then clinical more associated for the community programs.
Correct.
Okay. Then the other thing about the CV is something I did not see in the list of what things to be done. Neither did I see it in the list that do not do. So do we enlist the conferences that we have attended? Is that something that should be written or not?
Yes, there are, we have worked on CVs where we have listed conferences, especially if you're presenting. Of course, you want to put that as part of your background to showcase, the work that you're presenting and whatnot. So I would be selective. Like if you've attended a bunch of conferences, I would be very selective on what you put on the CV, right? And if it's pertinent to what you're actually pursuing, but I wouldn't list all the different conferences that you've attended. Just anything that is showcasing your background, your experience, and if you've actually participated, as a part of the presentation, definitely list it.
So we'll
Okay.
add one more thing on the conference. You can probably say if it's an international, or a national conference, just to highlight that you presented an international or a national conference. That's what
Sure.
my thought is.
Yep.
No, I absolutely agree with all the sentiments. My real thing is when I open up and I download as a faculty member, right, during interview season application, and people list ridiculous things like pharmaceutical conferences, or they're applying in neurology, but they're listing random conferences that make no sense. That shows them as one, overselling themselves, and two, really not understanding the process. And I'm like, okay, you went to 100 conferences, but did you present? This doesn't show me that you really have done much except for just go, So like, I would proceed with caution, like Ms. Taylor said. I don't like seeing 100 conferences on people's CVs. And a lot of times it gives me pause, and I really will usually not invite them for interviews, like at least at our institution, But there are like a lot of subtle hidden things that are a part of a selection committee process. And really, we cannot cover it in a 1 hour span. This is why I encourage you to reach out to us after this. But Dr. Banu knows this. So yeah, it's a delicate dance, and every year things change. Every year. So yeah, be very careful. Can I just get a head count of how many people here are applying this season versus next year?
We have,
Oh, I think he's.
we have taken your
Banu?
almost an hour. I don't want to take be respectful of your time
Sure.
because you have another conference. Dr. Datta, and this was actually very insightful, very helpful for all the students, and I'm sure they will be able to contact you directly, or they contact me, I'll direct to you, and them to kind of what they want. So we'll go from there. Anything, and I'm more happy to work with Dr. Datta and also with the students. Good. Okay. Anything else,
Yes.
Dr. Datta, you want to add on?
No, I think we're good. I think we covered a lot, and thank you for your time. I'm just very happy to see these young faces and future of medicine here today. So just understand that there's support out there for you, and we're willing to help you. So don't lose hope. It's a very isolating process. So try to reach out to us if you need more help, okay?
Yeah, definitely will do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for answering all the questions. It was nice.
Oh, great. We're so happy.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Have a good rest of your Saturday. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.